last summer, my youngest son traveled across the country in a car, a road trip, and he would send me postcards from different parts of the country. And it was always really fun to go out to my mailbox and pick up a postcard with a little message on the back that he would send to me. I love opening my mailbox and getting something fun like that in there. So I thought, hey, what if we made our own postcards and you got some stamps, or had maybe your parents get some real stamps. I like to find the fun ones. And made some postcards, put a little message on the back, and sent it to maybe some of your friends or your relatives, and they could have that same kind of really neat surprise. This is Art with Miss Therese. I'm Miss Therese, and let's get started. Here are the supplies I'm going to use. I've got some colored pencils, or you could use crayons. And we talked about this before, so my pencils don't roll off my work surface. I'm just using an old food container here. It's a yogurt container to hold my colored pencils, so they'll stay put. Same thing here. It's a little container I found in my kitchen. I might use marker, and this way they're not going to roll off on the floor. And I decided to do a little research. So these are some postcards that I had, and when I measured them, they were 4 inches by 6 inches. So I'm pretty sure that's the post office regulation for that. Oh, and by the way, I did get some kind of cool stamps, because I really want to mail my postcards, especially to, I think, some of my relatives. And I cut some heavier paper. Paper's a little bit heavier in that same 4 by 6 inch format or size. And then when you look at the back of the postcard, that's where you're going to put your stamp. There's usually a line or something here. So your message, you write it here. Sometimes there's a little description of what's going on in the postcard. And then you would put the name and the address of the person that you're sending it to. So we can begin by, these are postcards of places. And you could also just do a design on your postcard if you wanted, make it kind of a fun little design. And we may do 2 of them. I was going to start out, I thought, what if I draw a picture of my house, of where I live, and send that to my aunt in California. I have an aunt in California, and she's a lot of fun, and she loves getting mail. Now, we've done this before. This has, both of these have little borders on them. So you could use your ruler to do a border if you want to do a really straight one, where you would just, here, I'll go ahead and do, I usually don't do this, I like to free draw it. But I'm just going to kind of eyeball it here and make a professional straight line there. Notice I still do turn my paper. I do that on pretty much most of these things when I draw. I don't like to have my paper fixed down. I like to be able to move it around. You could measure this exactly, but I'm just sort of going to eyeball it today. I'm using just a regular pencil to do my outline. And I think probably today I'll use colored pencil. Maybe I'll throw some marker in. I'm not going to use paint, because what I have is watercolor, and if that gets wet on your postcard's trip across the country or wherever it's going, you might kind of lose the picture there. And so I'm going to put my picture there. Now on the back side, I'm looking again here, I want it to make it look kind of official and have some fun with it. So I'm going to measure, let's see, that's about 2.5 inches. So I'm going to do 2.5 inches here, and 2.5 inches there. And I'm just going to do my little line here. Go ahead and use lead pencil if you want, graphite pencil. You could even use color. And so now I've got my 2 sides. My stamp is going to go there. My address again is going to go there. If I want to write a little description, I could do that there. So maybe they think it's a real postcard. And then I'm going to write a funny little note. So I've cleaned up my lines, and when I go back and I look at the postcards, these are pictures of places. So I thought, what if I draw a little picture of where I live? And like I said, I think I'm going to send this to my aunt in California. And I think I'll do a picture of my barn. My barn has a peaked roof like this. All right. I could use a ruler to draw this, but I don't think I will. And then the sides kind of slant down like that. And then it has a side like that and a side like that. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. They should be about the same. They should be about the same length. And then there's the floor of my barn. I'm gonna have a little background behind it. And it has a little door up here where we slide the hay in. The hay stays upstairs in the loft. I'm going to add a little bit of a second line to my roof line. And I'm looking at my barn straight on. And then below that, it has some sliding doors. Like that. And then it has a stall door here. Where one of my horses lives. And it has a stall door here where another one of my horses lives. So this is a little bit, it's kind of like sort of a little miniature thing. And then it has up here, it has kind of an X like that. And then here, these are half doors, or what they call Dutch doors. And the bottom part has an X like that. I went out and looked at my barn earlier today, and I realized that I really hadn't been looking at my barn, and I really kind of enjoyed going, oh my gosh, that's what it looks like. It's always important to use your powers of observation, even if it's everyday stuff. So there's just kind of a little basic barn. I'm going to do sliding doors. The barn doors have a little edge like that. And then again, I'm kind of working sort of small. It has a bar across here, and the door that slide are hung from the bars like that. And they have a big X on them too. You could just do a picture of your house. You could do a picture of any kind of house you wanted. You could do a picture of your backyard. You could do a picture of your dog. And we've got some fences like that. I'm going to put my fence posts in like this. And then those are my rails. That's what you call the parts between the posts that keep the horses in or keep the cows in or out, depending upon where you want them. Might even do here, this one might be even open so they can go out there. And behind my house there are kind of a row of trees like this. I'm just going to sort of do like a little outline of trees behind my house. I could do scribble trees, but this time I'm just going to sort of enjoy just doing sort of just kind of a little faint background. Maybe there's some few little trees behind like that, a few little more behind like that. I have some very nice neighbors on the other side. I might even kind of off to the side. What if I have one of my horses eating some grass? So I'm just going to sketch a little horse. Doesn't have to be complicated. Pretty simple. Just a little horse shape there. And you could even do a stick horse if you wanted. And a way simpler barn. The whole idea is that somebody's going to get something. I'm going to give that horse a little eye. The whole idea is that somebody's going to get something. See, my horse isn't too detailed, but just enough that I think people can probably tell that it's a horse. You might do some few little tufts of grass. So there's my grass is a little bit bigger close to you, a little bit shorter, small, or further away. And so that's going to be my basic postcard. I'm going to go ahead and, color it in with color prints. Oh, you know what? I forgot. My barn has boards on it. So let's draw those boards in. It's going to make it look a little bit more real. And again, you could do a barn like this. You could do a design. You could make a card from outer space. You could do something with Remember those flying saucers we drew? You could do that. You could do something with planets. You could put some fish on it. Whatever you would like to do. Now, there's white paint on those X's, and all I'm going to do is just very carefully color in like this. There's kind of a little texture to this. This is, again, just some heavier scrap paper. And so I kind of like the way that kind of comes through with the pencil. It's not quite, it's just got a little sort of a nice softness to it. Red barn, and you'll notice too that it's not right smack in the middle of my page. It's kind of off to the side, and the horse is kind of a little bit off to that side. And I have those Dutch doors are open, so you can kind of see into the barn. It's a little bit dark here, like that, inside the barn. And then my roof on my barn is actually blue. But I think for this picture, I'm going to make it black, like that. And again, my lines aren't exact, but just kind of enough to sort of give that feeling that it kind of looks like a barn a little bit. Clean up this edge here, make it look a little bit square. And then my trees in the background, I found some dark green, since we have evergreen trees here. And I'm just going to use kind of a little technique of filling it in. Again, it's that scribble technique. You could also just go back and forth too. I'm sort of using a mix here because I like the effect. Whenever you use any kind of material, whether it's pencils or pen or watercolor with a paintbrush, you're going to find your own style. And that's one, in my mind, that's one of the funnest things about being an illustrator. And you can also have a variety of styles. My dad, who was an illustrator, illustrated children's books, and he did probably 85 of them. He would kind of change his technique depending upon the subject in the book, which I thought was really neat. He was always really learning and exploring and trying to figure out effective ways to get an image or a picture across. Because the trees in the background are a little further away, I'm going to make them a little bit of a lighter green. Color's not quite as intense. So maybe I'll add another one here, maybe another one there. You know, what's really fun when you're doing things like this is when you get started. I can drive myself crazy this way, but when you get started, I just love like really getting into what I'm doing. And let's see, the grass here, I think I'm going to make it the lighter green. I'm going to use a different technique here. I'm just going to very lightly go in like this. Not make it so dark. It's going to kind of go around my little horse. Oh my goodness, what are you barking at? You know, every once in a while, my dogs have to get into the act, right? And be part of these videos. I always like working with my dogs around. They keep me company. And when I need a break, they're always there to do something funny. Notice again, I do this a lot. I'm always moving my paper around. It really, I'm going to just very carefully go between the rails and the posts on the fence. And again, in the background, it doesn't have to be exact. My fences are brown, so I found some brown. And I'm going to color those in, which is probably kind of good. Even if they weren't brown, I probably might make them brown so they show up a little bit better. Here's the post, color the rails. Oh, I can see I skipped a little bit of green there. Okay. And then, you know what I didn't put? The top of my barn has a little weather vane. It's a rooster, and it has, can very carefully put the north and south, so those are the little pointers on it. I made it kind of miniature, didn't do it very detailed, just so people get the idea. And then how about a little bit of sky here. I like making the sky a little darker at the top like this, pressing a little bit harder, and then lighter as it gets towards the horizon. Realistically, that's because when you're looking through the horizon, you're looking through more atmosphere or more air, so it's going to dilute the color of the sky. And when you look up, you're looking through less, so the sky's a little bit darker. And it could be a hazy day too. So again, I'm just filling this in. Not any particular technique. I'm just using the pencil, pressing hard and kind of letting up. You know what I love? I love the sound of pencil on paper. So now I'm going to finish coloring my horse. Black mane and tail. Okay. And there's a little black for the eye. And one of my horses is all brown, so I'm going to make her all brown, like this. Or him, I should say. He's all brown with a black mane and tail. That's called a bay. There's lots of real interesting names for horse colors. But a horse with a black mane and tail and a brown body. Making the legs behind a little bit darker. Just kind of having fun coloring the horse in. Like that. Okay. I'm going to make that a little bit tighter around his face, darken that eye a little bit. A little bit more on the forelock. Maybe just a little bit around his nose, like that. I'm going to darken his nose a little bit. In fact, the hair around his nose is a little bit darker. There's his ear, like that. And again, it's not really detailed. It's just more or less to give the postcard person an idea. So there's my postcard. Wow, that's kind of fun. And then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to have some fun. And I'm going to write a little description. So I thought I'd kind of have some fun here. There's a little description here of what's going on in the front of the postcard. So I thought, why not? So I put our barn with Pinky. That's the name of one of our horses. Our barn with Pinky the horse grazing. Really easy description. And then what I would do is I would go ahead and I would put my aunt's name here and her address here and the city and the state where she lives with her zip code there. And then I would write her a really funny message here. Mostly what I'd say is, please come visit, we miss you. And then, look, I think I'm actually really going to send this to her. I've got, oh look, there's a horse. Holy smoke, look at this. There's a barn and there's some horses. You know what I'm going to do? I found a barn stamp. So I'm going to put the barn stamp on this and write her a funny little letter, address it, and because it's on this heavier paper, it's almost like a real postcard, and send her a handmade little postcard. We did a little bit of detail work today. We started out, well, we made postcards. We started out by doing a little bit of research. I always like to do a little bit of research before I start a project. Looked at postcards and kind of looked at the design on the other side where you write your note. Maybe your postcard has a little description of what it is, in case people don't know. And of course, a place to put the address to the person you're sending it to, and a place for the stamp. And the measurement, we measured it 4 by 6 and cut some little bit heavier paper that works best, that's just exactly the size. Designed our own postcard. Notice that these ones have a little bit of border. We did that on this. I did a picture of my farm with one of my horses outside. It's not exact, but it kind of looks like it. And then I filled out the back so I know where to put the address. Found some stamps and even a stamp with a barn on it. Is that cool? And that's where I'm going to put the address, and then I'm going to write her a fun little note there, tell her that I miss her. And then I wrote a little description that it's the barn on our farm. We used colored pencils, and notice I keep them in a container so they don't run away. You could have used a marker. I do have, and I didn't mention this at the beginning, I do have a piece of paper under this so that I am protecting my work surface a little bit. I outlined everything in pencil, and gosh, I'm just putting my things away so that I'm ready for next time. And I'm gonna go write a note and put this in the mail. You take care. I look forward to next time.